Easter break in England had arrived, the perfect time to chase the sun after a long gray winter. Our family was ready once again to pack our bags and go. The destination, southern Spain, Andalusia. 10 nights and 11 days of sunlight, history, and landscapes awaited us. We'd already been to most countries in Europe, but this time we wanted a place that felt warm, a place where spring truly touches your skin. So we decided to return to the south of Spain, a region we had fallen in love with back in 2018. Our flight departed from Luton Airport at 7:45 p.m., bound for Malaga. A short route, but always an exciting one. As the gray city lights of England faded beneath the clouds, I sank into my seat, exhausted from a day of work, and fell asleep almost instantly. After 23 years living in Britain and visiting over 40 countries, travel has become more than a hobby. It's a way of life. Over the years, I've collected not just photos, but countless lessons. How to rent a car cheaply, how to find family-friendly accommodation, and how to stay oriented in a foreign city. I used to compare prices and insurance details on sites like Auto Europe or rentalcars.com one by one, a slow and tedious process. But this time was different. I turned to ChatGPT. I typed our requirements: 10-day rental, mid-size SUV, full insurance coverage, highly rated local company. Within minutes, it listed options sorted by reviews and reliability. From those, we chose MálagaCar.com, a company with thousands of positive reviews and solid reputation. Booking took minutes instead of hours. Travel skill, I realized, is really about how well you handle information. The flight was smooth. The children stared at the lights below, imagining the adventures ahead, while we enjoyed a rare moment of quiet. At 11:35 p.m., we landed in Malaga. Compared with 2018, immigration lines were a bit longer after Brexit, but the process was still quick. Our bags appeared right away. Before Brexit, we could just walk through the EU lane with a UK passport, but now a stamp is required. Even so, we were out of the airport within 40 minutes. There's something unique about the air in an airport at night. A mix of fatigue and anticipation. That's when you feel it. The journey has truly begun. This time I used an eSIM purchased online before departure. Gone are the days of hunting for a local SIM card at the airport or paying high roaming fees. Now it's instant and inexpensive. It's best to activate your eSIM after arrival using the airport's free Wi-Fi, since you need an internet connection for the initial setup. My UK carrier, Vodafone, charges £6 per day for EU roaming. My wife uses giffgaff, which lets her roam across Europe with no extra fees. Same data, same plan. Years ago, UK providers offered free EU roaming to stay competitive, but as margins shrank, some started charging again. Those cases, an eSIM is simply the best solution. Instant connection, no card swapping, and fast speed. Such a small change has made travel so much simpler. This trip wasn't about checking off tourist spots. It was about building an itinerary that fit our family's own rhythm. In the past, I spent hours reading travel blogs and forums. Now, ChatGPT has made planning much simpler. I asked, 10-day family trip in southern Spain, balance between nature and cities. Within seconds, it generated a clear, day-by-day route with recommended stops and driving distances. Of course, we didn't follow it exactly. We added our own touch. Slow mornings, nature-first days, and our tradition of visiting a local market in every town. In the end, travel isn't about information. It's about finding your own pace. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains, and the sound of waves drifted in from the coast. From the balcony of our apartment, the ocean view was breathtaking. A blue horizon that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was a tempting sight, the kind that makes you forget your plans for the day. Our younger one wanted to stay and play on the beach, while our older son, who loves hiking, insisted we go explore the mountains. There was a bit of friendly debate at breakfast, but the air was still a little cool for swimming. So we promised the kids, tomorrow morning we'd spend some time by the beach. Today, we'd head inland. Our destination, El Torcal de Antequera, a natural park about 50 kilometers north of Malaga. On the way, we stopped by Carrefour to pick up sandwiches, fruit, coffee, and a few ingredients for dinner. The journey to a place often begins in small, ordinary moments like this, in a local supermarket among the rhythms of everyday Spanish life. Because sometimes that's where travel truly begins. As we left the sea behind and began climbing toward the mountains, the sound of the city faded, replaced by the scent of soil and stone. Driving higher, I couldn't help but think how different life felt here compared to the UK. After the pandemic and Brexit, prices back home had nearly doubled. Groceries, fuel, even a simple loaf of bread. Everything became a strain. Inflation tightened daily life like a quiet pressure on everyone's shoulders. But Spain felt different. Under the southern sun, life moved slower, softer. Fruits were sweeter, vegetables fresher, bread and meat almost unbelievably affordable. It felt as though time itself had refused to rush here. We didn't stop at the supermarket just to shop. We wanted to feel how people here actually live, to see, touch, and taste their everyday world. The children picked up oranges, smelled them, laughed. It wasn't only about what we bought, but about what we learned. The value isn't measured in price, but in freshness, warmth, and the way people care for one another. After coffee and groceries, we drove on. The road wound tighter, the air grew thinner, and soon a sign appeared. El Torcal de Antequera. From a distance, it looked like any other mountain, but as we climbed closer, it began to change. A landscape that felt almost alien. Gray limestone towers rose like frozen waves, and thin mist drifted between them. Nearing the top, we saw dozens of cars parked dangerously along the roadside. It was Easter break, and the crowds were large. We thought the parking must be paid, but it turned out to be free. We just had to wait a little while until a space opened up. Once parked, the view ahead felt like the entrance to another world. We first stopped by the information center, where staff kindly explained the available trails, their length, difficulty, and estimated time. Next to it was a small museum showing how this strange landscape came to be. Millions of years ago, this region lay beneath the ocean. The skeletons of marine creatures and shells settled into limestone. Later, tectonic forces lifted the seabed skyward, and over countless ages, wind and rain carved the soft rock into these bizarre shapes that now cover the mountain. El Torcal is one of Europe's most striking karst landscapes. Its origins tracing back to the Jurassic period more than 200 million years ago. Today it stands as a protected natural reserve, often mentioned alongside the dolmens of Antequera, forming one of Andalusia's most symbolic geological and cultural landmarks. Flowers grow from cracks in the stone, and eagles circle above the ridges while mountain goats wander freely. It feels less like a park and more like a cathedral built by the earth itself, a place sculpted by time and patience. Our family has always loved walking. In England, weekends often mean long countryside strolls, and wherever we travel, the first thing we look for is a trail. When the kids were small, we rarely kept them in strollers. We wanted them to stand, to walk, to touch the world with their own hands, to feel wind and soil and uneven paths beneath their feet. Maybe that's why they can now walk farther than most children their age, and why they find joy in running wild through nature. But the moment we truly became a hiking family came during Easter 2018 in the Swiss mountain village of Tenne. We arrived at a tiny cottage high in the Alps, a place still buried in snow, though it was already April. The host greeted us warmly and said, "My children are outside. Your son can join them, or come see the cows and sheep if he likes." Our son shook his head. "Maybe he'd enjoy sledding with the kids," she suggested. Again, he refused. After a pause, the host smiled kindly. "Then is there anything you might need?" He replied, "Yes, let's see, the Wi-Fi password." Everyone laughed, except me. Behind my smile, something felt heavy. That night I lay awake thinking, What is my child really seeing, really feeling? When we returned to London, we drastically cut down his iPad time and bought him every book he asked for. A few years later, he was accepted into one of the best schools in the UK. School isn't everything, of course, but today, he's happier, more curious, and more grounded than ever. Sometimes I think about how different our own childhood was. We didn't have fancy toys, yet we learned everything we needed running through fields, climbing trees, and playing by the stream with friends. Today's children, too often, are told the world outside is dangerous. So they stay inside, their adventures replaced by video games and endless screens. That's why whenever we travel, we try to return them to nature, to let them run, stumble, climb, and feel the world again. Because nature teaches what classrooms can't, that the world is alive and that we are a part of it. The wind at El Torcal seemed to whisper that truth. On those ancient rocks, shaped by millions of years, we stopped walking and simply stood still. The children gazed out at the landscape, silent, and I watched them, wondering what they might remember of this day. And then I understood. Travel isn't about collecting places or pictures. It's about learning how to breathe with the world, to move in rhythm with it, to belong. The trail is mostly flat and comfortable, though the ground is rocky. Good shoes are essential, especially for children or the elderly. Our family took our time, taking photos, videos, and lingering where we met a herd of cows and a tiny calf that the kids fell in love with. A 2-hour hike became a 4-hour wander. At every turn, new shapes of limestone appeared, each like a sculpture carved by nature. From the summit, the white town of Antequera spread below us. Red roofs, whitewashed walls, and the endless plain of Andalusia beyond. For a moment, the children fell silent, just watching. Some scenes stay longer than any photograph. The wind at El Torcal felt as if it carried the breath of the earth itself, a reminder that our journey is just a tiny fragment of a much greater story. By 4 p.m., we weren't ready to end the day yet. So we drove about an hour to visit Mijas, the white village on the hillside, before returning to our apartment. In the next episode, we'll explore Mijas and the ancient Alcazaba of Málaga. Our journey through southern Spain has only just begun.
This is the best trip ever. and the adventure continues.